In this video, we reveal the devastating story of a solo sailor who set out to fulfill his dream of sailing around the world. But by ignoring 3 basic sailing rules, he made mistakes that ultimately led to his downfall in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. What exactly did he overlook? How could these simple rules have prevented disaster? This isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a vital lesson for anyone dreaming of crossing oceans. We'll walk you through the events step by step, from the warning signs he missed to the final moments of a journey that began with hope and ended in tragedy. You'll discover how small oversights can turn into deadly threats at sea, and more importantly, what to do to avoid making the same mistakes. Before you cast off or dream of distant shores, watch this to the end. This story could very well save your boat, your journey, or your life. Like, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss any of our essential stories about sailing, survival, and the harsh reality of life at sea. Let's dive in. The Pacific stretched endlessly before Alex Turner, a 35-year-old software engineer from San Francisco. As he stood at the helm of his Pacific Seacraft Krelock 40 Horizon Seeker, the 40-foot sloop, built in 1990, gleamed under the June 2023 sun, its white hull cutting through the gentle swells off the California coast. Alex had dreamed of this moment for years, a solo voyage across the Pacific to Hawaii, a 2,400 nautical mile journey that would test his skills and fulfill his longing for freedom. The Horizon Seeker was his ticket to adventure, a sturdy blue cruiser with a full keel, a 4-foot 6-inch draft, and a displacement of 20,000 pounds. Its 800-square-foot sail area and 50-horsepower Yanmar diesel engine made it ideal for long passages. But Alex, despite his enthusiasm, was a novice in the unforgiving world of ocean sailing. His mistakes, 3 fundamental oversights, lead to a catastrophic shipwreck, a tale of ambition, error, and survival. Alex had spent 2 years preparing for this journey. After quitting his tech job and selling his small apartment, he poured his savings into the Horizon Seeker, a used vessel he found in a Sausalito marina. The boat wasn't luxurious, but it was reliable, with a fiberglass hull reinforced for offshore cruising. He upgraded the sails, installing a new mainsail and a 130% Genoa from North Sails, both with triple-stitched seams for durability. The water tank held 120 gallons, enough for a month at sea, and the 60-gallon diesel tank could power the engine for 350 hours at 2,000 RPM. He added a water maker producing 5 gallons of fresh water per hour to 100-watt solar panels charging, a 400 mAh AGM battery bank, and a basic navigation suite, a handheld GPS, a VHF radio with a 25-mile range, and an old Raymarine depth sounder. For safety, he carried a 406 MHz EPIRB, a personal locator beacon, and a 10-foot inflatable dinghy. The standing rigging stainless steel 1x19 wire supporting the mast was inspected, but Alex, pressed for time, skipped a detailed check of the keel bolts, assuming the boat's recent survey was sufficient. His first mistake, his route, was a classic one: San Francisco to Honolulu, a straight shot across the Pacific, following the trade winds. He studied charts from the 1990s, bought secondhand from a retired sailor, believing they were adequate for the open ocean. Without a modern chart plotter, he relied on his GPS and paper charts, plotting positions manually with a sextant he barely knew how to use. This was his second mistake, failing to use updated nautical charts, which could reflect changes like new reefs or shifting currents in the Pacific. He also lacked a satellite phone or single sideband radio, relying solely on his VHF for weather updates, a decision that would prove disastrous. His third mistake: on June 10, 2023, Alex cast off from San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge fading into the fog as friends cheered from the dock. The first days were idyllic. Light winds of 10 knots pushed the Horizon Seeker at 5 knots, and Alex reveled in the solitude, watching dolphins trail the bow. He set a wing-on-wing configuration, with the mainsail out to starboard and the Genoa pulled out to port, catching the trades. The autopilot, a refurbished monitor wind vane, held course, freeing him to cook simple meals on a propane stove, rice beans, and canned fish. He checked the water maker daily, though it clogged once with plankton, forcing him to clean the filter. Under a swaying deck, the solar panels kept the batteries charged, powering the GPS and a small LED cabin light. At night, the stars were a canopy, and the bioluminescent wake glowed like a trail of dreams. Alex felt invincible. By day 5, the wind picked up to 15 knots, and the seas grew to 6 feet. Alex adjusted the sails, reefing the main by 30% to reduce strain. He was proud of his progress, covering 130 miles a day, but his inexperience showed. He didn't notice the slight creaking from the keel, a faint sign of corrosion in the bolts securing the 6,000-pound lead keel. The Horizon Seeker had been hauled out a year earlier, but Alex, trusting the previous owner's word, hadn't inspected. The bolts himself, in salt water, stainless steel can hide fatigue, with microscopic cracks forming where water seeps into threads. A simple tap test or a magnifying glass could have revealed rust stains, but Alex was focused on sails and navigation, not the hole below. On day 10, 1,200 miles from shore, the weather turned a low-pressure system unforecasted due to Alex's lack of real-time updates, brought 25-knot winds and 10-foot seas. The Horizon Seeker rolled heavily, and Alex struggled to maintain course. Without a satellite phone, he couldn't access GRIB files or weather routing services like Predict. His VHF picked up no signals, as he was far beyond its range. He tried to heave to, a technique to stabilize the boat by backing the jib and locking the helm, but his execution was sloppy, and the boat lurched in the waves. Panic crept in as he realized he didn't know how to deploy his sea anchor, a parachute-like device to steady the boat in storms. Exhausted after hours at the helm, he lashed the wheel and went below to rest, unaware of the danger ahead. The storm intensified overnight, with winds reaching 40 knots and waves cresting at 15 feet. The Horizon Seeker was pushed off course, driven south by a strong current Alex hadn't accounted for, as his outdated charts didn't show recent shifts in the north equatorial current. By dawn on day 11, he was disoriented, his GPS showing a position 50 miles off his intended track. He plotted a new course, unaware he was approaching French frigate shoals, a chain of reefs, and atolls 600 miles northwest of Hawaii. Charts would have marked the area as hazardous, with new reefs formed by volcanic activity in the past decade, but Alex's 1990s charts showed clear water. He sailed on, the wind howling, the boat pitching violently. At 3 a.m. on June 21st, disaster struck. A grinding crunch shook the Horizon Seeker as it slammed into an uncharted reef. The impact threw Alex from his bunk, and water poured through. A gash in the hull, the keel, weakened by corroded bolts, tore free, its 6,000 pounds of lead, ripping away with a sickening groan. The boat listed heavily to starboard, waves crashing over the deck. Alex's heart pounded as he scrambled to the cockpit, his headlamp cutting through the darkness. The depth sounder was useless, stuck at zero, and the GPS flickered, its battery drained. Water surged into the cabin, soaking charts and equipment. He grabbed the APIRB, fumbling to activate its 406 MHz signal, and clipped his personal locator beacon to his life jacket. The dinghy, lashed to the foredeck, was his only hope. As the Horizon Seeker sank, Alex cut the dinghy free, inflating it as waves battered him. He climbed aboard, clutching a waterproof bag with a flare gun, water bottles, and a handheld VHF. The boat disappeared beneath the waves, leaving him alone. In the vast Pacific, the reef's jagged edges barely visible in the storm. Fear gripped him, but survival instincts took over. He fired a flare, its red arc fading into the rain. The EPIRB's signal, he knew, would reach satellites, alerting the Coast Guard, but help could be days away. He rationed his water, one sip, every hour, and tied himself to the dinghy to avoid being swept away. The storm raged for 12 hours, leaving him battered and hypothermic, his hands raw from gripping the lines. By midday, the seas calmed, but Alex's situation was dire. The dinghy had a small leak, and he bailed water with a plastic bottle. Hunger gnawed at him, and the sun burned his skin as he'd lost his hat in the chaos. He reflected on his mistakes, trusting old charts, neglecting the keel, ignoring the need for weather updates. Each error compounded the next, turning his dream into a nightmare. Yet, he clung to hope, scanning the horizon for rescue. On day 2, a faint hum grew louder. A Coast Guard helicopter, alerted by the EPIRB, spotted his dinghy. A rescuer descended, hooking Alex to a harness, and lifted him to safety. As the chopper flew toward Honolulu, Alex wept, relief mixing with guilt over the Horizon Seeker. Back on land, Alex shared his story with the sailing community, his voice breaking as he described the sinking. He learned that French frigate shoals had claimed other boats, a hazard well documented in modern charts. The keel bolts, he later confirmed, had rusted through, a failure that could have been caught with a $100 inspection. His lack of weather tools had left him blind to the storm, a mistake costing him his boat and nearly his life. Alex vowed to sail again, but only after rigorous training and better preparation. He now teaches navigation at a San Francisco sailing school, urging students to check their gear, update their charts, and invest in satellite communication. The ocean, he tells them, is a teacher, but its lessons are merciless. The Horizon Seeker lies on the ocean floor, a reminder of ambition unchecked by knowledge. Alex's story is a warning. 3 simple rules: use current charts, inspect your hull, monitor the weather. Can mean the difference between adventure and disaster. For every sailor dreaming of the open sea, his tale is a call to prepare. 2. Respect the ocean's power, and to never underestimate its dangers.